Paul has worked full-time as a personal trainer since 2007 and has earned several advanced certifications. He loves to be around people, so he participates in group activities often. Faith in God is paramount in his life. And that's all Paul gave me, but I will also say that Paul, dude, this guy is a powerhouse, one of the most awesome, authentic people that I know. Every time he makes a video, people are freaking falling in love with him, and dude, he just puts his heart on his sleeve. So I'm going to bring you on, Paul. We're going to rock this, dude. You're now live on the air.
Yes.
Yes.
Give me attention.
Yes, man. We're going to have a lot of fun today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come on, man. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So why don't you share a little bit about your background, your journey to get to where you are today, so that the audience can connect with you and get to know you a little bit more.
Sure thing. Well, since I wanted to kind of talk about prayer, I'll kind of attack it from that angle a little bit.
Okay.
So growing up, when I was in about 5th grade, I became really curious on who's right as far as religion's concerned, right? Is it Christians? My mom was Christian. My mom died when I was around 7 years old. My dad, I guess you could say, was Muslim. He kind of converted over. By the way, I know that this topic is highly controversial. I'm not going to be preaching my faith down anyone's throat. It's going to be more of a general overview of what I think prayer is, okay?
Perfect.
But anyway, just about myself specifically, can you still see me?
No.
See that? That's the devil, Chris. Trying to corrupt us. Okay, anyway, but you can still hear me, obviously, so I'll just keep talking. My face is about to come back on here just in a moment. Okay, here I am.
There you go.
So, anyway, I just became really curious with who's right, you know, as far as religion. So I started researching religion. I started learning about science. When I was in about 7th grade, I came up with the conclusion that God is just a made-up thing that people invented. That way they can understand things that we don't understand. So, for example, where did lightning come from? Oh, that's Zeus. Where did people come from? Well, God created Adam and Eve, and there's this story that people made up a long time ago, and it's just been passed down through generations. And then I also looked at it as a way to control people. So, for example, hey, Chris, don't do that, because if you do something wrong, you know, it's not good. And then you're like, well, why shouldn't I do it? Well, you're going to go to hell. And there's this thing called the devil, and the devil is going to burn you up for eternity.
Yeah.
So then I just had this thought in my mind, well, you know, it's all just made up. And I just came up with this idea that life is just a random coincidence. And at that time, I didn't think anyone else believed what I believed. I thought that I was the only one on earth that didn't believe in God. I thought my thoughts were revolutionary. I later on learned that there's other people that thought the way I do, and they call themselves atheists. So I said, okay, yeah, of course God doesn't exist. That's baloney, you know, it's obvious. So I'll go around trying to convince people that God didn't exist. And from my perspective at the time, I thought they didn't want to hear it. I thought they were like this, no. I kind of, the way I like to think of it, at least at that time, have you ever seen The Matrix?
Yep.
Okay, so you know when he gets woken up out of the Matrix, they say a lot of times people can't handle the truth, and they're just like, like they just can't accept that they're living in a dream world. I thought that that's how people were in regards to God. I thought they just needed this fictional, fabricated concept of God so that way they can feel good about themselves. That way they can say, well, everything's going to work out in the end because God, and when you die, you go to heaven, and, oh, it's okay that those really bad things happen because they're going to hell, and it's just a convenient way to look at things, but I didn't think any of it was true. Anyway, when I got into high school, I started thinking, well, maybe there's other people that, maybe people just understand something that I don't understand. Maybe they're smarter than me. So I shifted my belief system to more agnostic, and I believed that for a certain amount of time. And then I came up with a mathematical theory on why I believe God must exist. I wasn't really planning on talking about that, but if you're interested, I can kind of touch on that. And then about 10 years ago, I converted to a specific religion, Christianity. I'm not, again, here to preach the Bible or anything. I just want to talk about prayer. And I think a lot of people are praying. I know that that word is, people don't want to hear that word. And I think that, like, for example, you and I, we've gone to a lot of personal development seminars. We've done a lot of that. I think that prayer can be looked at as maybe affirmations in a way. Anyway, that's kind of my history, my brief synopsis as far as kind of where I've come from as far as from a spirituality standpoint.
And then I also do want to hear about your fitness, how you're focused on that, what you're doing with that these days. It's real quick.
Yes, sir. Anything you want, Chris. You just let me know, buddy. Over 10 years ago, I was doing a job that I just absolutely hated, right? This was maybe around 12 years ago, something like that, maybe 30. Anyway, I was doing customer service on the phone. So I get these calls, and these people just no one calls customer service typically to say, hey, I love my cell phone service. Hey, by the way, my phone's working great. People call in to be angry, right?
Yes.
They have problems. So, I didn't like the job, and I just stayed in it. I hated it every day. I remember I would just be so mad. There'd be times where I was just sitting there, and I could just feel the heat coming off me because I was just so angry. Anyway, I ended up getting laid off. During that time, I heard a quote, find a job you love, you'll never have to work a day of your life. And I wrote on a piece of paper 3 things that I would do with or without money. So basically, whether or not I get paid. And one of them was personal training. And that was the route that I decided to take. From there, started training people. I went to Lifetime Fitness and built up my business. And that's where I am now.
Cool. And then what's the Workout Help Out organization that you're...
Oh, Workout Help Out. Workout Help Out's a nonprofit organization that I started about around 4 years ago. Okay. And I thought of the idea because, I do personal training. So every day I go to the gym and I watch people in the gym moving things around. But to me, they're moving things around without a reason. Yes, they're moving things around for their body, but I was looking at that mechanical energy being wasted. So essentially they're burning calories, but those calories aren't being used for anything constructive. They're just picking things up and putting them down, but they're not building anything. They're not tearing anything down. So I thought, how can we capture that energy? So the first idea I had was, well, let's create machines that have generators in them. That way, when people go through the motion, it will at least fuel a battery. That way they can power the gym, right? Something like that. I didn't know where to get started. I didn't know how to get patents. So then an idea came in my mind. I thought, you know what? I'm watching people in the gym every day doing what's called functional movements. A functional movement is just a movement that you do in the real world anyway. Like, let's say, they're actually called wood chop, right? Like you would chop down a tree. You see people in the gym going through that motion. So I was just like, man, what if somebody were to really chop down a tree? Or you can mimic those same movements, like let's shovel some mulch for a Montessori schoolhouse, or like farmer carries. Farmer carries, you see people in the gym all the time, they hold on to heavy weights and they're just walking back and forth, right? I'm thinking, hey, you could help somebody move, it's the same thing. You're carrying on to something. So, and that's where I initially got the idea. So, and I just thought, hey, let's just gather people together. I'm a personal trainer. I'll help them apply those functional movements to real world activities that actually accomplish a goal for people in need. So like a grandma, we can, like, just this last Saturday, we helped this elderly person. She needed a fence built. So we took some of those basic movements. They were carrying the lumber, right, to build the fence. So that was a workout in itself. And then I also mix in traditional movements to ensure that people leave feeling like they've worked out. So that's kind of how it works.
That's awesome, man. Awesome. I love it. Thank you for the background. And maybe this will be answered in your discussion about prayer, but I want to hear what drives you to be of so much service and to want to contribute to people, because I hear that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Like a lot of times people ask me that question because they see what I do every weekend. They see me serving others. they see that I created this organization, right? So the assumption is, like, I just want to go out there and help people because, like, I'm a good person, or like I want to give back. But really, that's not really at the heart of why I started this in the first place. I'm not trying to say I don't like helping people. Right. I think helping people is great. But really, I just like hanging out with people. Like, I like to get people together and have a good time. So before I had this organization, I'd say, hey, let's all go bowling. Yeah, get a big group. Or, hey, let's all go for a hike, right? And I like to train people. Even though that's my job, I like to utilize my gift to help other people, right? And then on top of that, I just don't like the idea of wasted mechanical energy in a gym. Every day I see it, I'm like, man, if only these people would donate one workout a month, it could change the world just by taking some of that energy and actually doing something with it.
Wow.
So I guess that's what really drives me in general as far as workout, help out. And as far as personal training, what really motivates me there is, I guess, like, in a selfish way, I like to help other people. I know that sounds kind of weird. It's like almost like a paradox, but by assisting other people to reach their health and fitness goals, that just brings me pleasure. Plus, it's fun.
Yeah,
I like to do it.
That's awesome. That kind of
what you're looking for?
Yes, absolutely. So that's great. And let's start diving into this topic of prayer.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Praise the Lord. Hallelujah.
Praise the Lord. What do you want to know? Do you want me to just start talking about it, sir?
Yeah, man. Whatever you feel like people need to know, or wherever they might be stuck or stopped in prayer. What's the foundation? What's the background about prayer, dude?
Oh, man. I'm so passionate about prayer. If you guys are listening to this, I invite you to hear me out. I know that prayer is such a polarizing term. You may not call it prayer, and I don't think there's necessarily a right or a wrong way to pray. I do believe, in my experience, that there is an effective way to pray. And I know this because I've done it, and it's so powerful. We all have access to this thing called prayer, right? It's just such a powerful gift. And I invite the people watching, and even yourself, Chris, I don't know how much you believe in it, but just listen to what I say, and you can pretend like it's just BS, right? You could, like, I like to compare it to just tapping your head like this. Just tapping your head, right? If I told you, Chris, hey, if you just tap your head like that, you can get almost anything you want, right? Right? You can't say, this doesn't work if you never tried it.
Right.
Now, once you've done this, and then it doesn't work, then you can come to me. But in my experience, everyone that does it, it works. So anyway, I will say this, that for many people, it's impossible for a prayer to be answered because of the way that their mind is constructed. No matter what happens, it's impossible for a prayer to be answered. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. Okay. Actually, before I get into that, I want to differentiate the difference between two things, okay? There's a difference between a miracle and an answered prayer.
Okay.
They can be the same thing. They can be exactly the same thing. But many times an answered prayer isn't a miracle. So first, let's define what a miracle is. Because a miracle means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. In general, in my experience, talking to many people, I have a rough understanding of what I think most people think of a miracle is. A miracle for most people is something that requires a very low probability of happening. That means it needs to be like a 1 in 5,000 chance that this thing will happen. Then if that thing happens, it's a miracle. Right? Other people may think that a miracle means that it's an act of God. It's something spiritual that can't be defined. So that means that a miracle cannot be explained. Okay? Now I'm here to say that an answered prayer, this is what an answered prayer is, Chris.
Okay.
You pray for something, right? And then if you get the thing, so I pray for this pen, right? I say, God, give me a purple pen. Please give me a purple pen. And then I have a purple pen. It's an answered prayer. Now, this pen doesn't need to pop into existence, and it doesn't need to not make sense. It doesn't need to be a miracle, meaning, whoa, where'd this pen come from? If I get the pen, if I ask for it and I get it, it's an answered prayer. That's it. That's all it is. So I think it's very important to differentiate the difference between a miracle and an answered prayer.
Okay.
Because I think there's a huge disconnect with that. I want to lay out these kind of common objections or misunderstandings before I kind of dive into the basic framework of what a prayer is.
Yeah.
Another thing is when you pray, there's going to be a middle to the prayer, meaning you're going to pray for something, right? So there's a point where I ask for the pen, and then I'm going to get the pen. So there's the asking for the pen, and then there's the receiving of the pen. But the thing is there's going to be an in-between part. Now the thing is what people do is they look at that in-between part and they say, well, that's not an answered prayer because of this middle. And I'm here to say that there will always be a middle.
Yep.
Always. I don't care what that middle thing is. If I say, God, give me a pen, and then I get in my car and I drive to Walmart and I buy a pen, and then I'm holding on to the pen, that's an answered prayer. I know that's an extreme example. That's an extreme case. All I'm trying to say is if you want a prayer to be a miracle, then you need to make sure that you pray for a miracle in that sense. Don't say, God, give me a pen, and then get it and say it doesn't work. You have to say, God, give me this pen and make it vanish out of nowhere. That needs to be your prayer. Do you see what I mean?
Right.
Okay, cool.
So do you think a lot of people are praying and they've got it confused of like, I'm praying that I'll earn $2,000 this month somehow, and that's a miracle versus an answer. That's not a miracle. It's actually an answered prayer because they did the work to fulfill on it. They attracted it, however you want to say it. Is that kind of...
Yeah, that's a good example. Let's say, God, give me $2,000, please, God, please. And then let's just say I challenge somebody. Let's say I challenge one of the viewers to they want to make $2,000. Let's just say, right?
Right.
This is what happens all the time. All the time. I'll say, okay, I'll give them the framework, which I'm going to lay out for you. I say, this is how to pray. This is how to amplify your prayer, right? These are the things that are going to hold you back. Take it. Then I come back to them and I'll say, did you pray for that $2,000? They'll say, yeah. Do you have $2,000 now? Yes. Answered prayer. Oh, no, it's not. Because what happened was, actually, I got a tax return. I'm like, well, I don't care what the thing was in between. That's the middle part. Or they might say this. Oh, well, no, it's not an answered prayer because I actually had to apply to 5 jobs, and I got a job and had to work 40 hours a week. Did you pray that you get $2,000 without working 40 hours a week? You just asked for $2,000, right? You got it? So I guess my point is I don't care how you get it.
Yeah.
If you get the thing, that means it's an answered prayer.
Yes.
And there's infinite explanations on why this happens. And by the way, I want to let you know that I believe in contradiction. I think that everything contradicts, so I'm about to contradict myself. I believe that everything is because of God, and I believe that you cannot do anything without God. To contradict myself, I believe that this works whether you believe in God or not, and this will work with or without God. Meaning, if you don't believe in God, if you just go through the process that I'm going to lay out, it's going to work anyway.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, God does all things, but you don't even need to believe in it. It's still going to work.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm excited. Tell us how to do it.
All right. I'm going to tell you how to do it. Okay, remember, this isn't a framework that needs to be followed. It's just an effective framework that I find works. I'm gonna dare to say it almost 100% of the time. At the same time, I'm gonna explain why this won't work for 99% of the people out there. And I know that seems like I'm contradicting. I'll explain what I mean. Okay, first, let me just get into the framework, the skeleton of what I think is an effective prayer.
Okay.
I like to use the analogy of a good father. So, Chris, let's just pretend that you have this great father that you live with at your home.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect dad. Mm-hmm. He gives you everything. Anything that you want, he just hands it over to you. You say, Dad, I want a 3-egg omelet. He says, Chris, here you go. And then you say, Dad, I want some money. He says, take it. You say, Dad, I want a car. Here you go, son. Mm-hmm. You never tell him thank you. Mm-hmm. You treat the stuff that he gives you like crap. You come into the house, you trap dirt into the house. You walk up to him and you say, Dad, pop! Slap him in his face. And then, but he's always there for you. If you ever need to talk to him, he says, Chris, I'm going to listen to what you say. He sits there and listens. So basically, that's the situation, okay? Mm-hmm. Let's just pretend that this is true. Okay? Now, I would think it would make sense before you came to your father, before you asked for anything like that $2,000, the first thing that you would say is, hey, Dad, I'm sorry that I tracked mud into the house. Mm. I know that you always give me food, and I never clean my dishes. And, oh, by the way, I slapped you the other day. You didn't deserve it, right? Mm. And when you were listening to me, I got real angry, and I took it out on you. Mm. So it would make sense to me when praying to God that the first thing that you would do is that you would say, I'm sorry. Hmm. Now, what are you sorry for? That's a matter of debate. I believe that God has given us templates on what is right and what's wrong. Now, you can choose to take that power onto yourself. Chris can be the creator of his own universe, and you can declare what is right and what's wrong. Hmm. Now, those things, in my opinion, will not serve you if you decide to play the role of God. In my opinion, when you decide to humble yourself and leave those things up to God, it's going to best serve you. Yeah. The rules set out by God aren't to restrict Chris. Hmm. So, for example, if I say, hey, don't eat any cake, Chris, and ice cream, right? Let's just pretend I'm playing the role of God, and then you eat those things. I'm not going to say, Chris, you ate ice cream and cake. I'm angry. No, you're gonna have to deal with the consequences of eating those things. And over time, if you continue to eat that way, it's not going to serve you. The same thing is true with the template and outline of God. So if you look at Christianity, if you look at Islam, if you look at Judaism, if you look at the major religions in the world, that they tend to be a lot of the same things. There's a structure. Most people are familiar with the 10 Commandments. Basically, if you deviate from that basic structure, I believe that it makes sense to say, hey, I'm sorry. Hmm. It has nothing to do with whether or not you understand it, and it has nothing to do with whether or not you think you had any control over it. So meaning, let's just say I kill somebody, right? Mm-hmm. I can always rationalize that and make it make sense to me. Mm-hmm. I can make it make sense, and it will make sense, and I can make it a good thing because I have all the power to choose whatever it is I want. Mm-hmm. But what I'm suggesting is that if we deviate from God's plan, the first thing is to say, hey, I don't understand why killing is wrong, or maybe even, hey, God, I didn't think I had a choice. I had to kill him. Whatever your thing is, just say, I'm sorry. And for a lot of people, they live in a world where they don't do anything wrong, and that's fine. I invite you just to consider, hey, God, if I'm doing anything wrong, I'm sorry. At least start there. If there's anything I'm doing that's not in alignment with you, and I'm ignorant on it, just I'm sorry. So that's the first place. It's basically ask for forgiveness. That's the first, I guess, component of the basic outline of prayer. I want to make it real simple. I'm just going to give everything in blocks of 3.
Perfect.
So I'm going to give 3 things that lay out the structure and outline of prayer. Okay. Cool?
Yes.
Okay. You want me to keep going?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, cool. So that's the first step. So in this analogy, I guess you could say, that I've created with the good father, where he gives everything, I would say, God, I'm sorry for tracking dirt into the house. I'm sorry for not cleaning my dishes. The next thing is it would make sense to me that you just say, hey, thank you. Thank you for making me food whenever I ask. Thank you for that car. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for pretty much giving me anything I ask of you, right? And one thing I believe, again, I'm laying out the basic structure of prayer. I believe that in the modern day personal development movement, and I talked to you about this at Warrior Camp. I don't know if you remember this, but I believe that the new movement is basically taking a lot of the truth of what's woven into the universe and the essence of God, and people have just extracted God out of it. And the thing is, it works regardless. If you give thanks, it's still good, and you know that. What you appreciate appreciates. What you focus on expands. Being grateful makes you happy. You don't need to believe in God for that to serve you. If you just reflect on what's good in your life, it's gonna benefit you. So whether or not you believe in God or anyone else believes in God, you know, people call it the universe. Call it that. That's fine. God, thank you. I had a client once that just did not want to use the word God. I said, just say it to yourself then. Man, I'm thankful that I have food every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the next step, is giving thanks. So it goes, I'm sorry, thank you. And then you ask for whatever it is you want. Like we talked about that $2,000. If that's what you want, then ask for that thing. It's as simple as that. It's really easy. Just ask for whatever it is you want. And I want to be real clear that you have to be really specific now with what you're asking for, because in my experience, you're going to get the thing. And most of the time, you get the thing and you think that thing's going to do something for you that it really doesn't. So let's say, for example, the $2,000, somebody may be praying for that, and they think that's going to give them, let's say, a sense of security. Let's say that's really what they want. God, give me $2,000. They get the $2,000 and they realize, dang, I'm still really insecure. Or I want $2,000, that way I can maybe feel more proud, let's just say. But they get the $2,000 and they still feel, they still have a low self-esteem. So what my point is I invite you and the viewers to pray, and just know it's an evolution. It's an evolution. Everything that I lay out for you today, I want you to know that if there's anything negative, I'm guilty of it myself. I've been guilty of it. I'm guilty of it now. And this is the thing that I go through. Here I am telling you, if you pray for something, you're going to get it 100% of the time. And so many times I'm not praying for things. Just right before this call, I was just thinking, I hope like I'm able to communicate myself effectively. And I thought, I could just pray for it, right? That was like a last minute thought. Let me just think. I was like, you know what I mean? And here I am telling you how powerful it is. And so many times I'm not praying for the things I want. So anyway, so that's the skeleton outline. That's the basic framework of what a prayer is. Forgiveness, or thanks, and then ask.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And I wrote it down in the comments. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
All right, cool.
Even though you have this framework and this knowledge, why do you think people still hesitate or forget to ask and pray?
Oh, man. I'll give you three. I'll give you three very specific points on why people are not praying, why prayer doesn't work. I'm here to tell you prayer is going to work, and I'm here to tell you it's not going to work. Totally not going to work. I know it's not going to work because I've been talking about this for years.
Yeah.
Years I've been talking about this. So I have a huge pool of surveys of people to determine whether or not this is effective. So let me give you the number one reason why it doesn't work. And again, it's going to seem like I'm contradicting myself, and maybe I am. You don't need to believe in this for it to work. You don't. You don't need to believe in God. It's still going to work. But the number one reason why it doesn't work is because a lack of faith. So let me explain that to you. You don't need to believe in what I'm saying. You don't need to think it works. But the thing is you have to have just enough faith. Just enough. Just that tiny little bit to just do this. Because if you don't do this, it's not going to work. Like I said at the beginning. So this is how it normally goes down, Chris. This is what happens. I'll talk to somebody. I'll say, this is prayer, and it will work for you. Every time. I guarantee it, right? This is how to do it. And I'll give them the structure that I just laid out for you, and I'll give them tools and tips on how to make it effective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Almost every time, I'll come back to them later, months later, and I'll say, did you pray? And they'll say, no. I want to venture to say probably close to 95, 99% of the people are going to fall within that group. So there's going to be people listening that are going to say, oh, that sounds interesting what he's saying, or right? But most people just won't do it. Now, the thing is, it's not going to work if you don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the lack of faith will knock out almost everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because what ends up happening is, in the mind, we're thinking, well, if it really worked that way, wouldn't everyone have what they want, right? Mm-hmm. Well, Paul, he says that prayer is so powerful. Why doesn't he have everything that he wants, right? If prayer was so powerful, why are there all these churches struggling? Why are these homeless people? There's these stories that will flood into the mind and basically just prevent us from doing something so simple as this. This is very simple. It doesn't take time to say, God, give me $2,000. That just took me, what, 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That doesn't take very long, and I'm here to tell you it will work if you just do it. People just won't do it. That's all it is.
How do we raise the percentage of people who do follow through and raise the likelihood that people will have faith that it'll work?
Okay, that's a great question. So the how we raise that up is by actually shedding light on the second thing that's going to take people out. Because by being conscious of these, I guess, challenges, I believe bringing consciousness to what will happen during a prayer journey, I believe will help people be able to move through. It's like a health and fitness journey. If I tell somebody, hey, if you start working out, you're just going to get straight to your goal. No, it never happens that way. It's like this. So if I can say, hey, man, there's going to be ups and downs. That way when they hit that up and down, they'll know, oh, this is normal. I'm going to keep moving, right? The same thing is true with prayer. What will end up happening, the second thing that takes people out is either a conscious or a subconscious limiting of God. And let me explain to you why this takes people out. Now, in our everyday life, we ration, right? You're rationing how much money you have, Chris, because you have a limited amount of money. I understand that there's this abundance mentality. At the end of the day, there's only so much money in your bank account.
Right. Look at the bank account. What does it say?
And you only have, let's say, so much food.
Right.
Right? So let's say you have so much food and you need to feed your family. Now, let's say I have 4 oranges, right? And everyone needs an orange to live. And I have my dad, I have my 2 sons, and my wife, right? So I give an orange to my dad, I give an orange to my 2 kids, I give an orange to my wife. There's nothing left over for me. It's gone, right? The reason why what I'm trying to do, what I'm attempting to do is lay out a parallel. Now the thing is, money, at least on a physical level, on a certain level, yes, everything's abundant, but at the same time, we have a limited amount of money in your bank account. You can't just go out and just buy like Ferraris, right? You're going to run out of money. At the same time, so my point is with prayer, God is infinite. So we can pray for whatever we want, but we since we have that mentality of constantly limiting, what we do is we put a box around God. And what ends up happening is we say, Paul said if I pray for $2,000, I'm going to get $2,000. Yeah. And then they're about to pray and they think, wait, I can't pray for that. I need to pray for my dad because he's not healthy right now. God, please help my dad to be healthy. Okay, now I want to pray for that $2,000. Wait a minute, my 2 kids, right now they're struggling in school. God, please bless my 2 kids so that they're able to focus in school. Okay, now for that $2,000. Oh wait, my wife, man, our relationship is kind of on the rocks. Okay, God bless our relationship. And then I start thinking in my mind, I can't pray for $2,000. Because how selfish would that be? Because if I pray for that $2,000, I'm going to take away from my dad's health. If I pray for that $2,000, I'm going to sacrifice the relationship with my wife. The thing about it with God is infinite. So you can pray all you want for whatever it is you want. There's no limit. Just keep praying. But the thing that takes people out, this is what happens, Chris. I'll tell them this. I'll say, look, do it, right? So then I'll just say, just get over it. Just do it, right? But then I'll talk to them and I'll say, hey, did you pray? And they'll be like, yeah, but I didn't pray for that $2,000. I'm like, hey, that was the whole thing. You know what I mean? And then I'll ask, why didn't you pray for that $2,000?
Yeah.
And they'll say, I felt guilty.
Wow.
And where's that guilty feeling coming from? It's coming from, there's a number of things, but what I believe one of the main things it's coming from is we're feeling guilty because we're limiting God, because we think that we're somehow taking away from other people. So you asked me, how can we make it better? How can we make the percentage go up? Just know that you're not a bad person if you pray for $2,000. If anything, it glorifies God. If I pray God for $5, if you just humble yourself enough to acknowledge that you can't do anything without God, and then when you get it, you give glory to Him, it actually helps. And the thing is, if I have $2,000, I'm in a better position to serve others. So many times I get people saying, because I do personal training, they'll say, I can't pray to lose 15 pounds, or I can't pray to be healthy. Well, hey, if you're more healthy, can't you take care of your family better? Won't you be in a better position to serve them? You know? Like, what sounds better? I lost 15 pounds on my own, or I did it with God's help. I did it because of God. So that's what I think that point is a really big point on taking out most people. So those two first things will take out most people, like I said, but just by bringing consciousness to that second one will help people get over those kind of guilty feelings that will naturally come.
So the first one, the limiters are lack of faith. That was the first one. Lack of faith that it will actually happen. And then the second one is conscious or subconscious limiting to how big God is, or how much we should actually deserve, or whatever, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So basically, I don't know if you realize it or not, but the two main things that prevent prayer from working is just not doing it. You see what I mean? Prayer works if you do it. It's just that if you don't do it, it's not going to work. It's as simple as that. So the third thing, you have experience in this, Chris, I know, and this is going to sound weird for a lot of people. I know it'll probably make sense to you. But the third thing that will take most people out is just simply not receiving it. Not receiving it. So the way it'll look, there's infinite possibilities. Remember, there's always a middle. So the way it looks is you say, God, bless me to have $2,000, please, right? Yeah. So you ask for it. Then what will end up happening is there's going to be a middle. So let's say, for example, the middle is your dad comes to you and says, son, I see that you need $2,000 here. And then I say, oh, no, that's your money, Dad. I don't want that. I want to work for it. I want to do whatever. So I reject it. So the thing is God's not going to put a gun to your head and say, take the thing. You have to take it. If so many times I'm talking to people and talking to them about prayer, and then I follow up and I'm talking to them as far as listening to their stories, and they're telling me how the thing is being handed over to them, and they're rejecting it. Like just the other day, I was talking to one of my friends, and he was saying how he just wanted alone time with his wife, right? That's what he wanted. I suggested praying. Pray for that alone time. Then I talked to him like a week later, and he's like, yeah, my wife wanted alone time. And she said, hey, I found a babysitter for the kid, and I have our whole weekend, just you and I. And he's like, oh, no, let's bring the kid along. You know what I mean? I'm like, you were just asking for that thing, and it was just handed over to you. Take it. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So those are the three limiting, or the three things that are going to prevent prayer from working. The first one, again, is just lacking faith or not doing it. The second one is limiting God, that guilty feeling preventing us from even praying. And then, or we may be praying, but we're not praying for the things that we necessarily want, if you follow me. And then the last thing is just not taking it. You gotta take the thing.
Yes. Dude,
yes.
Brilliant. We got Shamika putting up some comments in here, and she said it's funny that we chose $2,000 because she's been praying for $2,000 to keep her program going. Awesome. Great timing. And then also she said having faith is very important. I know for myself, I have lost faith many times because it wasn't happening as fast as I would like it to happen. Yeah.
That's another thing. That's another thing about prayer.
Yeah.
When you pray, man, the only way for people to kind of really understand, I think, is you really have to go through the process. I'm just trying to paint a picture the best I can just from a surface, but you have to go through it. But anyway, I guess all I want to say is if you need it in a certain amount of time, then you need to make sure that you specify that time. Don't say, God bless me with $2,000, and then a month goes by and you don't get it, and then say, God, what the heck? Right? You didn't specify when you needed it. And I know there's part of your brain that says, well, if God is great and all-knowing, he knows everything. And he does. Again, to contradict myself, I find it beneficial to approach it from the standpoint of almost like God doesn't. Even though he does, it helps us to go about it in that way, being very clear. God, I want $2,000 and I want it within a month, please. You see what I mean? Something like that.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. I love this conversation because I'm particularly getting into this visualizing and feeling and attracting energetically, and I find it interesting how this plays in. So do you have a take on that you want to share about? And
I do.
Yes.
I do. There's 3 what I call inner works that I find very powerful. One is prayer. To me, what prayer is talking to God. So when you're talking, like for example, I'm talking and you're listening, right? Okay, so when you talk, that's prayer. Meditation, to me, is when you shut up and you listen. But right now you're listening to me and you're not talking. So when you meditate, that's when you basically shut up so you can hear what God's telling you. And then there's visualization. Visualization is basically imagining things on how you would like them to go down or seeing them, picturing the future. And we're all visualizing anyway, so might as well just take the reins and choose how you want to see things to go down. But anyway, to your point, Chris, you asked me, how do I think that these things mesh up? There's 3 things that I find will amplify prayer. So I want to go over that briefly, just because I find that if you do that skeleton outline, it's very powerful, but there's a few things that will absolutely amplify the probability of it occurring. Okay? So I want to get into that real quick. So I like to compare it to exercise, right? Let's say, Chris, you're trying to lose 20 pounds, right? Okay. And I say, hey, Chris, diet and exercise will help you. And then I see you a year later, and I say, hey, did diet and exercise help you lose that 20 pounds? And you go, nah, it didn't work. I go, well, what happened? Well, I worked out for 5 minutes, and nothing happened. I say, okay. Well, what you're forgetting about is consistency and duration. So the same thing is true with prayer. If you want $2,000, God bless me with $2,000. Yes, that's powerful, and that may work. What I find is more powerful is when it's consistent and there's a certain amount of duration there. So I invite people to pray every day. If you want $2,000, pray for that every single day.
Yes.
And also, just like with exercise, you can't exercise for like 2 minutes. When you pray, you want to pray for a certain amount of time. Now, anytime you do any inner work, you get so much more return on your investment. Meaning when you work out, let's say you got to drive to the gym, that might take 30 minutes, change, work out. Let's say altogether you invest 2 hours of your day. I'm here to say if you pray for 5 minutes to lose weight, that's more than that 2 hours. When you do inner work, you get so much more return on your investment. Big time. So all I'm trying to say is you need to make sure, though, you're doing it consistently, and there needs to be a certain time frame there. It doesn't need to be long, but it can't be just like that real quick. That can work, and it does. I'm just here to say that it will improve the probability of it working when you do it a little bit longer.
Yeah.
That's,
I've personally, for me, I've started visualizing and feeling, and I will also combine in an asking portion, the praying portion, and see how that changes things up, and I'll keep you posted on it. But personally, I do it every single hour. I have a reminder on my phone, and I spend 20 seconds to focus on that, to visualize it, to feel it. And of course I miss a couple hours here and there, but like for the most part, it goes off every hour of my day just to remind me to focus, to pray, to keep that in the foreground, and it's leading all my activities. It's why I'm doing the things that I'm doing as a chief aim, as this thing that I want. It's powerful.
Wow, that's true. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with combining, like what you said. Mm-hmm. I like to compare it again to exercise. Maybe that's because what I do for a living. Mm-hmm. So there's resistance training, there's cardiovascular training, mm-hmm. and you can do strictly cardio, or you can strictly do resistance training, mm-hmm. or you can do both at the same time. Mm-hmm. So what I see a lot of people doing is they're doing like this blend between praying and meditating at the same time. It's all good. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I think it's important to differentiate, because I think many times people are lacking on one of those things. Like they're praying, but they're not meditating. So they're not hearing what God's saying. God, give me $2,000, and God's trying to yell at you, telling you how to get it. And when all you need to do is just shut up and hear what he has to say. Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's important to make sure that you're doing all three. Wow. Real quick, I wanted to give those other two things on how to amplify prayer. Yes. So consistency and duration is the first thing. The second thing is emotion. And no, I lied. That's actually the third thing. But the second thing, I think, is verbalizing it out loud. Okay. So let's just say inside your brain you said, God, give me $2,000, right? It's one thing to think it in your mind. It's another thing to say it out loud. I believe when you say it out loud, it adds energy to it. It increases the chances of it working. 100%. In the Bible, it talks about saying things out loud and how powerful it is. Whether or not people believe in the Bible, if you just look at the brain, just saying things out loud change it. Yep. It just makes it different. I know it does. Yep. The other day I was talking to a client and I said, just say out loud, I'm going to lose 60 pounds. Just say it. And then she was just giving me all this resistance. She's like, I can't do it. And like, you could see she was about to cry. And I was like, okay, just write it down. So she wrote it down. And I go, okay, now say it out loud. She goes, no, I already did it. I wrote it. I go, I know, but say it. She goes, it's the same thing. And I go, no, it's not. Because if it was, you wouldn't be giving me all this resistance. If it really was the same thing, then you just do it. But because it's not the same thing, it's different. So anyway, praying out loud, it's huge. And then the last thing you already heard me say it is emotion. You talked about this energetic field. There's a whole personal development movement on, feeling it and all that. And I believe there's truth in that. I believe that's consistent with the teachings of what I believe in the Bible. But again, whether or not people believe that, it still works. When you pray, I encourage it to be out loud. I encourage it to be with emotion. And I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of Tony Robbins' teachings. He says emotion is motion. So moving your body. So it's not just like, God, please give me $2,000. God, please bless me with $2,000. Like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude.
Yes, sir.
Dude.
What questions do you have, good sir?
Dude, I've been asking them. You're answering all of them. I love it. I love it.
Yes.
So last minute, because we're rounding out the end of this interview, man. I'm particularly fascinated with this because I too went from at least for me, I went from Christian, it's very heavily Christian, and like going to church all the time, Sunday school, all that kind of stuff, and then to atheist because I was like, F religion, I don't need this BS, to agnostic, until now I'm very spiritual and I believe in God. I just don't know what's the proper source to educate me on the distinctions of God. So I'm looking at different things, A Course in Miracles, Bible I haven't dove into yet because it's just intimidating. Yeah.
It's interesting your story because it's kind of like a flip of mine.
Yeah.
Okay, what were you going to say?
So I was just going to say, like, I'm really grateful for that, for shedding light on this, because for me it's a particularly fascinating subject, and I think for a lot of people out there who are open, who are willing to share perspectives and hear out other people, it really makes a difference. So I do want to hear your last minute call to actions or encouragements or things that you just feel compelled to share or say, and then we'll find out how people can stay connected with you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
My last call to action is I invite people, whether or not they believe what I had to say, I invite them to just go through the process, to just follow that format that I laid out and approach it from this perspective. Like I said, tapping your head. You don't need to believe in it. You don't need to believe in God. I invite you to do it. And then once it doesn't work, then you can debate against it, or you can say it doesn't work. So that's my call to action. Dang, I was going to say something about it. Oh yeah. So for example, there's a lot of people like you that are, and by the way, I don't think I'm any better than anybody else. I don't think that, I have it all figured out, because I don't. But I do think that the first prayer that I ever did, Chris, I had an experience that happened where I understood the power of prayer. I felt like God shed light on that for me. But I didn't believe in God. So my first prayer was, God, if you exist, just show me that you exist. Give me faith. I said, God, just increase my faith. Now look at me. I'm having a conversation with you right now, right?
Yeah.
About prayer and God, right? I was the last person to talk about the Bible, dude. I would debate against the Bible. I thought that was all BS. Anyway, my point is the call to action I invite people to say, or my prayer, the prayer invitation is, God, if you exist, if there's something out there, show me and increase my faith in you. That's not going to hurt anybody, right? What's the worst that could happen out of that?
Wow. Beautiful, man. Beautiful. I love it. And how can people stay connected with you, Paul?
The best way to stay connected with me is probably through workouthelpout.org.
Okay.
That's probably not the best way to say personally connected with me, but I'm just going to lay that out there because it's real simple. That's a nonprofit that I talked about earlier. So if people are interested in what that nonprofit is, they can go there and check it out. There's at the very bottom, it says contact. So there's an email that will come to me if you need to talk to me. We have a number. It says, I think it's 956-WOHO, 210-956-WOHO. That's essentially my cell phone number. So if anyone needs to call me, they can, if they have any questions about this particular topic or anything else.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Then in the coming months and years, what are you going to be doing with Workout Help Out and your fitness business?
The goal is to go at least nationwide, if not global.
Yeah.
Right now we're in San Antonio, and we're starting one in Houston, I think in the next couple of months. So if anyone out there is intrigued by what I've laid out as far as Workout Help Out, and if you go to the website and you think it's something that you want to do, we have a tab on our website that shows how you can start your own. And it's free to start your own, and we're going to give you all these resources and tools so that you can be successful. So, yes.
Beautiful, man. Thank you so much for coming out here, Paul. Thank you for being so humble and just sharing the information and sharing your experience without an attachment to anybody doing something the way that you do it or anything like that. I can tell that you just give freely, you are of service, and you're just someone who wants the world to be a better place. So thank you.
Hey, I just want to say you have a lovely smile, sir.
Thank you. Well, dude, you have the best day ever, and hopefully we can have you back on here in a couple months when things are even more prosperous and growing and rocking for you.
Virtual high five. Boom! All right, buddy.
Awesome, Paul. Thank you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Have a good day. Adios.
Take care, man.